Here we go, another episode of Faith Cast from Faith Baptist Church in Visalia. Welcome. And this is a special Christmas episode of our podcast.
It's nice.
Yeah,
I like the music.
It is very nice. We wish you a Merry Christmas, and this is actually Christmas night. It is after 8 o'clock on Christmas night, and my wife and I were talking. Sharon, my wife. By the way, my name is Eric Northuck. I'm one of the pastors here at Faith Baptist Church in Visalia, and I was talking with my wife, and we were talking about Christmas, and we thought it'd be fun to do a special Christmas podcast while everyone else is enjoying Christmas.
Well, the kids are cleaning up the kitchen.
While the kids are cleaning up, that's
we're
right.
enjoying Christmas now, too.
While the kids are cleaning up. And we were just kind of talking about, the difference between Jesus and Santa.
Yep.
And so we thought it'd be fun to do a quick Christmas podcast on why Jesus is better than Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he doesn't compete.
He doesn't compete. That's right.
And one of the most profound differences is that Jesus is real and Santa isn't.
That's absolutely true. That would be number one on the list. Jesus is real and Santa isn't. I was thinking about that as we were going through, we read through the Christmas story. I'm sure most families do that, at least in the church. So like from Luke 2, before we open presents, and in the contrast between the glory of Christ and the humility of Christ is pretty amazing in Luke chapter 2. And that stuck out to me. Like there's a real humility that he took on, but then there's this glory that is there. And, Luke in particular, when he writes, he's writing from a historical perspective. Like he identifies historical pointers, like Quirinius was governor of Syria at the time. People were registering for the census, and all of these little historical posts, road maps, or road signs, I guess is what I'm looking for. And really, the point of Luke doing that is so that you know that Jesus really was born.
Yeah.
It really happened.
Right. It's historical, and also more than that, he is truth. Like he actually defines what our reality is and answers all those questions that we wonder about life, like what is my purpose? Yeah,
he does.
Santa doesn't give me my purpose.
Santa doesn't. No. Someone is going to say, well, Santa was a real person, Saint Nick. And that's true. But it's not the same as the Santa that we talk about, the story of Saint Nicholas. The Santa that Santa has become some jolly, man in a shop in the North Pole making toys. They're not real. Right. But Jesus is real. So that's good. So why is Jesus better than Santa? Well, good starting point. Jesus is real. Jesus is real.
I think really the next, maybe, it's hard to say what the most important thing is, but I just think that Santa gives good things on the basis of good works. Yeah. Where, the Lord gives to us on the basis of his goodness. Yeah, that's Santa's checking his list to find out whether you're naughty or nice. No. I used to joke with our kids. You remember that if Santa were real, they wouldn't get any presents. If he's truly... That's so true. Santa himself wouldn't make his own list because there's nobody that's good. Right. And anybody, that tries to do good, you can't, maybe in some external way you're trying to compensate with moral behavior, but the goodness that God, the standard of God's goodness goes deep into the heart. It's a perfection that is beyond anything you can possibly fathom, and that's the standard. Yeah, and when he places his righteousness on us, right, we're given perfect righteousness that is, it's so far beyond anything that Santa could
could ever be looking for is he's looking for goodness to decide whether to give a gift or not. The kind of righteousness that we receive in Christ is absolute perfect righteousness, so that when God sees us, he sees perfection.
Right. Even though we're
not, we're undeserving. So Santa gives good things on the basis of good works. The Lord gives to us on the basis of his goodness, and really on the basis of Christ's good works. And so it isn't based on us. That's good. That's number 2. I like that. So a third thing, what were we saying? Santa gives only temporary earthly things.
Right.
Things that will be forgotten by this time next year. Yeah, like I know some people remember the toys they got when they were little, but most of it is forgotten.
Right. Right. And, the Lord tells us that every good and perfect gift is from above, and he gives us all good things to enjoy. So I think even those good things in this earth that we enjoy are from him. Yeah. But more than that, he gives us what is eternal.
Yeah.
We have eternal hope, eternal joy, eternal love that nothing and no one can separate us from. And of course, eternal life.
Yeah. It's, the Bible is chock full of the hope and the promises that we have because of Christ. And, we gave our, like Blake and Carson, our 2 youngest, the remote control cars. And whenever we buy a remote control car, we're always like, it's not going to last an hour. And shockingly, it's lasted the day.
They played with it almost all day.
It was like a $10, whatever remote control car. But they've been playing with it all day, and I'm shocked. I'm like, are they doing a better job now? Because I don't remember them lasting that long. But I know I expected it's not going to make it very long. It's going to break, and they won't even remember it. But the gift that we get from get from Christ is eternal. Mm-hmm. He gives us comfort, direction of the Spirit, guarantee of heaven, a time coming when there's no more sin, no more sickness, and no more sin.
Yeah.
What a gift that will be.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so much better than Santa. Santa doesn't even come close.
Right.
Santa could offer me, the greatest thing I could ever want in this life, which I don't even know what it is. I have to think hard about, what I want. Maybe
Shiloh bought me the White House.
The White House, right? In his
Shiloh.
His game that he plays.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So let's say Santa could give me the White House. It doesn't even come close.
No.
Doesn't even come close.
No. And just that hope that we have that is so secure that no matter what happens to anything that we have in this world, or, to people even that we love, our future is so secure.
Yeah. That's 1 Peter chapter 1. It describes that our inheritance, it's incorruptible, that cannot fade away. What a promise. What else do we got here?
Well, I think how, Santa, we really don't see him very much except for at Christmas time. And, he does his great journey around the world, in one day. Yeah. And I just think, Santa's here for a day, but Jesus will never leave me nor forsake me.
Yeah. That reminds me of, what is it, at the end of Psalm 27? Mm-hmm. It says, even if my mother or my father should forsake me. And then this relationship that he has with Yahweh. I don't remember how the Hebrew goes there, but I would have fainted unless I'd seen the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Something like that. Even if my mother and my father forsake me.
Right, and you think of like a mother and a father, it's like that is a relationship, towards a child that there should be the utmost loyalty.
Yeah.
Faithfulness, like that's a face only a mother could love.
Right. Right.
But even if your closest, people that should be faithful and loyal to you forsake you,
yeah.
God will never.
He never will.
Never will.
Not possible, because we have received all the gift that comes through Christ, because Jesus is better than Santa.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's there in the worst moment of our lives.
Yeah. Even in our biggest problem with sin. What can Santa do about sin?
Right, exactly. And at Christmas, we celebrate that rescue, that there is a Savior born who is Christ the Lord, and he came to save us.
That's
from
the entire
our sin.
point. The Word became flesh in order to bring us salvation. Santa doesn't do that. Santa brings us a toy, and then he's gone for the rest of the year.
Which, right, is fun for a while. Mm-hmm. But, when someone is sick and dying, that's not what they need.
Yeah.
And, our sin is, like spiritual death.
Yeah.
And it's our biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right. That's right. Another one, Santa brings us presents that, and we already mentioned this a little bit, those presents are going to end up in the dump, regardless of the quality of it.
Right, eventually. I mean, even if it's 100 years from now.
Right. Eventually, it's going to end up in a landfill or somehow rotting away somewhere.
Right.
You can't take it with you. So when Santa brings presents, they're not going to last. But Jesus, when he takes us, our broken lives, and he makes us new.
Yeah.
He takes the broken things and he makes them fit for heaven.
Yeah. And like Romans 8:28 says that, he takes all things, the good and the bad, and he works it together for his good purpose, which is to be like Christ. And I think like I'm not the person that I used to be, and that's because of Christ.
Yeah, we see this profound gift of salvation that is eternal. I was thinking of that, the way I would joke. Do you remember that?
Like when the kids were little.
Yeah.
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 You tell them things and teasing. They didn't know for sure if what you were saying was true.
Yeah. I don't know why I took pleasure out of doing that, but they could always trust you, because they always like, Mom, is that true? And I'm just joking with them, but yeah.
Yeah. And that was just like what I chose to do, that I was just pretty careful about what I said was truth, because I wanted them to trust me. And then, I want to teach my kids about God. And so I wanted them to know that when I spoke about God, that I was speaking the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important that we are speaking the truth to our kids. And that includes Santa. I know this is very controversial, but the fact is Jesus is better than Santa.
Yeah.
There's no comparison.
Yeah. And I think about that because like Santa, he's got amazing power. He travels the world in one night. He like goes up the chimney. He flies with reindeer, and he's all knowing. Like he knows if all the boys and girls have been good or bad, and they've never seen him, but they're told he has this magical world where elves work for him and make toys.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, I'm trying to teach my kids about God, but I mean, it just reminds me of God.
It's really, he's being presented as a God.
Yeah. And
when you think about it,
I'm not against fairy tales.
Right.
But I want to make sure kids know their make-believe.
They need to know, they don't need to be confused about who God is.
Because I think, well, God is all powerful. Yeah. And I'm, telling my kids, like, one time he even walked on water. And one time the disciples were all locked in a room, and there Jesus wasn't a chimney.
Right. Right. He didn't go through a chimney. He went through a door or somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that he's all knowing, he's like, nothing is hidden from his sight. Like he knows our thoughts. He knows our sitting, our rising before a word is on our mouth. All our days are written in his book before there was one of them.
Yeah. He is absolute, all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, infinite in all of his ways, infinite in love, infinite in his grace. There is no doubt that what he has promised us is absolute because it is based on who he is. When you actually compare Santa to Jesus, what you discover is that Santa is just like a kind of a Superman of sorts, but he's still a man.
And then when I think in relation to my kids, because no one has seen God, we have confidence he's preparing a place for us, and we trust his word that what it says is true. But I just think like one day, my child will discover that Santa's not real.
Shh.
unless they're an actor.
Oh, right. Right.
Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Magical Christmas
That's
magic.
right. Fantasy.
Yeah.
Fairy tale. Yeah.
And so, I mean, he'll discover one day, that Santa isn't real. And then like, well, what about Jesus? Is that just another story that my mom told me?
Is Jesus real?
Right. Or, that another one of her imaginary friends.
Mm-hmm. And that's really the danger, I think, when you talk about Santa versus Jesus. You really are pitting Santa against Jesus if you are not, if you're not careful as parents. And I think that you are potentially confusing them. You're elevating a being who doesn't exist into a place that is reserved for God, and he's not a very good God. Yeah. In fact, he's kind of
well, it's a works-based religion.
Right, it's works-based.
Right.
There's no hope.
None of
really.
us can be good enough.
Wait, how do you know you're good enough?
Yeah.
I noticed that with some of the movies, Christmas movies coming out, they're kind of hitting that theme, like what is the standard of what is good enough for Santa? And they're kind of playing that up more in the movies these days on Christmas. But it's a good question to ask. Like, how do you know you're good enough? There's no way to know. And then there's this big problem. If eventually they learn that Santa's not real, and you've been telling them that Santa's real, and you're also telling them that Jesus is real, whom you can't see, how are they going to know?
Yeah, and if I've said those same things, like how I was saying before, like, that really Santa's all powerful and Santa's all knowing.
Right, the things you've been you would say about Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of a scary thought.
I just kind of thought that before. And like, why wouldn't I give them Jesus? Isn't it the most amazing story in the world?
Yeah. Yeah. Why have we supplanted the Christmas story with a lesser God? Right? That's what Santa is. And why wouldn't we give them the greater God? The one who actually can save them from their sins. The one who actually will give them a gift that will not fade away. The one who, if they put their trust in, they will find, everything they need for this life and the life to come, in all spiritual power.
Yeah.
Life and godliness, everything.
I know. We have to ask ourselves, have I found Jesus to be my greatest treasure?
And that may be the reason why that we do that, is because we don't treasure Jesus enough, so that we're actually seeing that, it's greater what Jesus gives us than if Santa would come and he would give us the thing that we want the most. And maybe we're projecting that to our children. I've thought of that. Is Jesus your greatest treasure? Is his gift actually greater than anything that Santa could bring you? If you could write a note and send it to the North Pole, and there were a non-fictional being who could bring whatever it is that you put on that letter, even if that existed, so what? If you gain the whole world and lose your soul, what profit is it?
Right.
How much greater is Jesus? He is, and the reason why I think we end up falling into this trap is, that Jesus really isn't the greatest treasure, but he is. He really is. And the only reason why we don't think that is because we haven't spent enough meditating on him.
Right. I'm thinking of Psalm 73, where the psalmist says, "Whom have I in heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth that I desire besides you."
Yeah.
And I think for us to experience that, like you said, we need to gaze more on
that's right.
who Christ is, to pursue him and
right.
seek him through the word.
Interesting. That pits, right, the way you described that psalm, it pits it actually pits the idea of Santa against Jesus, the way that's described. The thing, who's greater. I can't remember how to quote it again.
You want me to
quote it again. Yeah.
"Whom have I in heaven but you? And there's nothing on earth that I desire besides you."
Right. Santa is earthly.
Yeah.
Jesus is heavenly.
Yeah.
Santa is going to pass.
He's but for a moment.
Right? He's but for a moment. Jesus is eternal. So Jesus is greater than Santa. There you go. There's your Christmas podcast. And I hope that is an encouragement to you, that you will turn your eyes on Jesus and find that he is more beautiful, more glorious than Santa or anything else that you can possibly think of. This has been a podcast from Faith Baptist Church in Visalia. And if you're looking for a church, our Sunday services are Sundays at 10:30 and 6 o'clock. Come join us. Until next time.